Just a second here. Blood dog's barking.
Oh no.
It's okay, we're used to
Can you
that.
hear
Yeah.
barking or no?
Who let the dogs up?
It's not that bad. It's not that bad, Crit. We can hear.
Okay. So they stop as they're talking.
Dinner time.
Okay. So for me, for a long time, that was really compelling evidence. I thought about it. I'm like, so how can I square this? Let's say, someone had a father or whatever who did this stuff, right? And if you really look at it, it's not even that difference. Because once I actually looked into what his dad did, it was still works. It's not something like he flew to Jupiter or like he flew to Mars or the moon. This is just low orbit. This is like 200 miles up. They're not even counting this as space travel. It's still being high as an elevation. It's like an atmosphere flight. So from there,
I wouldn't call it space travel, but I would say, technically he had been to space. I wouldn't call it space travel.
Just for fun. They just kind of said, hey, if you do this, we'll just call it space. So yeah,
what about him?
Sense now. Because I was able.
But what about him seeing the curvature though, from space?
Yeah, they actually, there's been people who said you don't see curvature. You only see about 4% of Earth.
That's nonsense.
From the ISS.
That's true, but you still see plenty of curvature from that elevation.
Was it that Vsauce guy said that if he basically did a demonstration, like he made some sort of thing on a cardboard and pretended like these were the windows of the ISS, and he put it like in his garage. He said, and as you can see, I have to turn my head side to side, and I still see the full garage. He goes, that's what it would look like from the ISS. You'd look out the ISS window, and all you would see is Earth. And not only that, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Okay, and he said not only that, you would turn your head all the way to the left, you would see Earth. Turn your head all the way to the right, and just see Earth. You're only.
Well, that's if you're looking down. That's if you're looking directly down. That's not looking at the horizon.
And have you seen the video?
That's if you're looking straight down.
Have you seen the video of the sun? What we would consider setting from the ISS, setting next to Earth, or Earth, rotating. I don't know how you would phrase it from the ISS, but they're in space and they saw the sun.
Yeah, the other thing too is like when the goofy one, Don Pettit, he did some sort of time lapse photography. And it showed that he had incidents of pole stars or polar rotation to the port in the starboard that didn't match the supposedly pole star rotation. So this is why I'm kind of able to throw it all out. Because if you start going down this like meth field symposium about
it's not going to match the pole star rotation. It's going to be related to the axis of rotation of the ISS in relation to space.
So posted a video of the sun setting and sunrise from the ISS. If you wanted to check it out, what you thought about that?
Yeah,
because
you understand that, Crit. Hold on a second.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Crit, you understand that the ISS has an orbital inclination of I forget how many degrees it is, which means that it has a different axis of rotation than the Earth does, so it would have a completely different center point of rotation.
Yeah, that's not how they described it though. From when they said that the story, they said this is how the stars look from the ISS. So I'd be like, sure, okay, I guess I can go with that.
Yeah, it's got a 51.6 degree orbital inclination.
Then if you look at
the center point of the central point of the rotation of the ISS if you were looking out a window that was looking in the same direction and you're looking at starfield rotation, it's going to be a different center point than the Earth.
What were those pictures you just posted? What are they supposed to be about?
Yeah, this kind of shows you that it doesn't match reality.
That's obviously a fucking fisheye lens. It's so obviously a fisheye lens.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's one of the images was taken from the ISS, and one of them was taken from much farther away.
Right.
Yeah, the ISS one, that's a fisheye lens. It's distorting the horizon.
Right.
It's completely distorting the edges of the image.
I thought you were asking about.
You
began by asking about the astronauts. Are they fake? Are they real?
From the ISS.
Which one?
The
top one.
No.
It's not on the ISS.
It's probably a zoomed in picture from like a full
Bad
size.
sort. Just a bad crit.
This was also interesting too. If you look at the path supposedly ISS takes, and you do like a spiral graph, it shows it doesn't pass its 60th south, and even more so, it doesn't go anywhere near the north.
It only has a 51.6 degree orbital inclination. That's as far north or south as it will go.
That's what the You're not telling us anything.
It looks like a spiral graph, and that's a toy he had as a kid, okay? Coincidence? I think not.
But if you look at that spiral graph over the flat Earth, it kind of all makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
There's no reason to even wonder why in the hell would something be up in the sky doing this?
The next
it
thing
has
too,
to make their fairy tale true.
No, the next thing you can do too is you just look at the claims that they make of stuff they're doing up there, like turning water and poop, or turning pee and poop into coffee, and you're like,
no,
what
they're
the
not
fuck?
turning pee and poop to coffee. They're filtering water.
They're
not doing that.
You know that's done on Earth, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've been doing this for a long time. You can do this. They have straws that you can filter your own water with. They have little containers you can do that with, but they're not turning poop into coffee. So
No, he said he's got a regenerative life support system that he goes and uses like the head or whatever, and then the machine goes chug a chug, and then he goes has a coffee.
Yeah, but they're making
Actually,
coffee.
I think it's 5 chuggers, but
It's 5 chuggers? Yeah.
They're
You
making
get a couple
coffee with
chuggers.
water that they're recycling, but they can use that water for whatever they just drink it normally.
So, Craig,
Like out of the toilet?
if you thought, I don't know where you stand. I think you have questions or whatever you were going to call them, doubts. But do you believe the Earth is flat?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely flat.
So
yeah.
is it a round flat or is it an infinite plane kind of flat?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't be able to go. I guess at some point, if I were just to guess, I would probably go with the infinite plane.
Okay. So if we know the ISS, even if we could say we don't know if there's people in it, right? But we know there's something that we point to in the sky and we see it and we say that's the ISS, right? So with the pattern that they say it makes, this pattern like you posted, right? We can track it and see that it makes that pattern. That's the way it moves. Would that not make you think that maybe it's a circle type of flat plane rather than an infinite one? Or would you think that there would be a dome over us, so they'd be limited in moving that light and that pattern? And then with that ISS moving in that pattern, would it not see the sun, which would be close and local? Wouldn't it see the sun at all times because it would be above the sun, or the sun would be just above it or equal to it?
Well, okay, which one do you want to do first?
Whichever one.
Okay,
You just
so
have to just pick whichever one you find.
yeah, so my understanding is, a lot of flat earthers don't want to give up any space at all, right? It's all a violation of natural law. But I can look at and see the gas pressure gradient, so I can understand that there is some sort of gas pressure gradient that isn't directly connected to a center of the Earth. Like we talked about yesterday, the Mount Chimborazo versus Mount Everest. Some reason astrophysically, Mount Chimborazo should have a high or lower gas pressure gradient than Mount Everest. This is a book that Tyson wrote. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the book right now. We talked about it yesterday anyway. But if you actually look at the gas pressure gradient, supposedly it's above sea level. So then you look at the claim the ISS makes. The ISS makes it that they are 200-ish miles above sea level. So if you say, well, sure, that makes sense, but why would you gauge your distance above sea level if it's all astrophysics? Astrophysics doesn't care about sea level. That's another quote from Tyson. Tyson said, astrophysically, sea level is meaningless. It's just a scalar that has nothing to do with anything in space.
With anything in space. And is the atmosphere in space, or is it on the Earth?
Yeah, if you want to talk about the atmosphere, right? Yeah, it would be
that's what we were talking about. Why is the atmosphere measured above sea level and not the way you keep rephrasing it?
Gas pressure gradient.
Which is the atmosphere.
Yeah, but it's also a gas pressure gradient.
Yeah, and we call it the atmosphere when it's on the Earth.
Yeah, but you're also doing it
from the
astrophysically. But you're also doing it astrophysically to the center of the Earth when mass attracts mass.
That's not how it works. There's not a level of the atmosphere below the water. This was explained to you ad nauseum yesterday. Why are you regressing?
I guess because he still doesn't accept it as the way it was explained.
Oh,
you know, I mean that was
yesterday. He said he understood it 6 times.
Just because it was explained several times while he was in the room doesn't mean that he had to accept it.
Yeah, I told you already. I wasn't looking for any more explanations, right? I said I wanted science. I'm sick of the explanations like, oh, you don't understand it. Because I guess so. Sure.
You keep
Show me the science.
You don't understand.
Yeah, so why would you give me another explanation and then say I don't understand it? Just show me the science.
Keep asking.
Well, show me the science then. Show me your we tried to walk through it.
Science.
Yeah, we tried to walk through it. And I said, so what type of controlled variables will we go through? And people started listing some controlled variables. I'm like, sure, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I would do weather, I would do sunlight, I would do temperature. And then start from there. Could you use this experiment to predict gas pressure gradient? And virtually everyone said no. And why? Well, because gravity isn't a constant on Earth, even though a lot of globalists like to say this. So I would be like, okay, well, sure. So you don't have an idea of what gas pressure gradient prediction would be because gravity's not constant. What if you were to say, here's also gravity as a controlled variable? Could the person then predict gas pressure gradient? And the answer was back, no, they couldn't. What they would have to do is measure it and then just plot it out, make a model, and then say, here's a model of gas pressure gradient.
What's the consequence of not being able to predict the gas pressure gradient?
Yeah, if without the power of prediction, the model is just a just so story. It's just like, sure, that's interesting, and it sounds kind of clever and insightful, or maybe has some purpose, but prediction is not one of them.
So what's the atmospheric density requires that you know where the sea level begins. If you take the ocean level away, that completely alters the gradient.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense because
where the sea level is.
It's not ocean that the gas is being. The gas is being drawn to the ocean. It's being drawn to the center of the pear-shaped curve.
And where does that gradient begin? It begins at the interface of the water.
No, it begins right.
That is the beginning measurement point.
No, but it starts at the center of mass. It doesn't start at.
No. There isn't an atmospheric gradient underground.
The further you get away from the center of mass, the less gravity you have pulling the gas.
But is there gas underground? Is there a gas gradient for you to measure?
Gravity doesn't care about ground. Gravity will pull all the way through anything. It's being pulled towards the center. The further away you get from the center, the less gravity you have. Therefore, the less gas pressure gradient you have.
You don't understand the first thing you have to have is gas in order to have a gas gradient.
The first thing you have to have before that is
measure a gas gradient in solid material and liquid material.
Yeah, you got to have right from the very beginning. You got to have a pull towards a direction, and the further you are from that pull, the less gas pressure you have. Because they say the more gas. The reason why the globe model
proportional to the
gravity.
Yeah, it's proportional to the gravity.
The pressure gradient is not due to not just the gravity gradient. It's due to there being less air above whichever point you're measuring as you go higher.
Yeah, so you got two things. Then. Okay, sure. So I say that would be another experiment. Can you measure how much stuff is above versus how much stuff is below, and then do mass attracts mass and see which way that gradient should go?
And he wants to measure a known quantity called air pressure or barometric pressure using a gravimeter. Instead of using a tool that's designed to measure barometric pressure, which we already have.
No, you missed it again. I was looking for, instead of a just so explanation, someone say, wow, you don't understand this. Okay, well, sure, fuck it, I don't understand it. I'm looking for science. Science is repeatable, observable, and measurable. Something that I should be able to do too.
Ways to measure barometric pressure.
Yeah, I'm looking for a like experiment though, right? And if you guys tell me like, oh, here's this something, another story.
You're
sure,
acting like these experiments haven't been done and could be done very easily
which
by
one?
You if you knew how to do
one
an
experiment? Because the last time I tried to do an experiment that was already done by the Department of Transportation, it was all shit on. So right away, if you're that right there helps me to know that if I copy an executive branch experiment, I'm going to have to take it with a lot of grain of salt, because the first time I did that, it was negated. So maybe the second time I do it, I'm going to be thinking like this is actually kind of fucked up too. Because the first time they did an experiment, I tried to reproduce it in such a way to test the globe and to test ambient light in the atmosphere.
Why did you do that when the test wasn't a test for the globe? Why did you misapply an experiment?
That's what he does.
Yeah, because the whole idea was to find out is the sun being blocked by the curve of the Earth.
You're actually admitting that you did something wrong.
No, I didn't.
Have done that.
You've misapplied an experiment. I was applying cause and effect to
experiment.
I was applying
purpose, and incorrectly.
No, you got it wrong.
I'll
explain it to you again. It's very simple.
You've tried to bastardize the utility of an experiment,
curve of the Earth,
and yet you are
a geometrical block of the Earth. And once I figured out how to do that, it was really easy to put the cause and effect relationship. Once I didn't get the cause and effect relationship done,
admitting that you're doing experiments wrong. Have I got that clear?
No, I'll tell you how I did it right, but you just keep
talking
over.
I'm not interested in what you did right.
Yes, you were talking over him. He started talking, you talked over him, and you just kept talking. Give way.
Yeah, I do normally, but this guy did the same shit this morning. Now he's back in the afternoon doing the same shit again.
But just let him say his piece, please.
Yeah, this morning I made a point. My point was made. I went away, and now I'm back.
And it's the same bullshit you're doing again. I think I'm just going to sit here and just be like,
just let him make a point, then respond, please. Thank you.
Okay, so right away you totally misunderstood the experiment. It's not my fault that you can't follow science. Because right away, it's actually quite funny that I got people both on the globe and flat earth side to be like, yeah, that was an experiment. And even QE said, let me hear this experiment. This is before we start feuding. He's like, let me hear what you think this is an experiment. I ran it through him. He's like, well, yeah, I guess that would qualify as an experiment. And this is a guy who shits on any experiment people do. Then I got people on the globe side to also agree. Then later on, you got this dude want to overtalk me, tell me it's not an experiment. Then basically at that point, he's negating all of it. And I'm okay with that. If your goal is to say this wasn't an experiment, then that's pretty easy to say. If I reproduce an experiment that the federal government does, yeah, let's negate it.
I didn't hear him say it wasn't an experiment. I heard him say you were misapplying it.
You don't understand science.
Those are mere details that just detract from his diatribe. And the point of his diatribe is just to keep diatribing. I mean, let's just not fuss about the details when there's no actual productivity from anything he does or says.
Well, give me your experiment then. What experiments have you done?
Why does anything you say or I say imply I have an experiment?
Well, I'm just curious because if you obviously have some criticism of what I did, maybe you can show me what you did.
I believe so. How do you turn the volume up?
Michael on. Michael.
Yeah,
Mike.
Bon Jovi's hot micing.
Hi, Crit. What are you talking about?
Oh, jeez. I guess we're apparently talking. We're talking about Crit again.
His W. He's talking about his W experiment and how he misapplied it, what the government did, to assuming that it means the Earth is flat.
No, there's actually I did this to do a cause and effect relationship between sunset and ambient light in the atmosphere, if you will.
And what does that tell you?
There isn't a cause and effect relationship between the two.
How did it tell you that?
Based on how many times does it have to be gone over? It's crazy.
I just got here. I didn't hear it.
Okay, so really, I got too many standard deviations to match up with the time and date sunset in Florida, and then optical or avionic sunset in northern Minnesota.
Huh?
Yeah, well, we can.
Is that supposed to tell you comparing those two different latitudes?
Yeah, because it was going to be a control variable that you would reproduce the experiment at two different locations and see if there was some sort of correlation between latitudes, and they were.
We can go through where your experiment went wrong.
No,
if you like.
just throw my experiment now and show me yours.
Did you do that on clear days? Did you check for the weather?
No,
he didn't.
I did it.
What he's done is bastardized a test for ambient light and tried to fix it to a time of day. He's trying to say that there will always be a certain ambient light level at a time of day on a day of the year. The ambient light level being when you're supposed to put your headlights on. He's completely ignored the fact that it is irrelevant to the time of the day if the ambient light is above a certain level. The key thing he's completely lost in his experiment is it's the ambient light level, irrespective of the time, that's important. And he's tried to nail it to timeanddate.com's table of sunrises and sunsets to prove that if the sunrise and sunset times are the product of a prediction of the globe and the ambient level isn't the right level at those predicted times, he has then declared, victory, the Earth isn't a globe.
Well said, Bizarre. Well said.
Is that fair?
No, that's so far off. I'm not even
That's
sure.
exactly what he's been
completely scientifically literate. Is what it. What
So
that
did
is.
you account? So did you or did you not account for variations in weather?
No, it did not account for variations in weather. The only
Then
way
how
I
are you
count,
going
and
to get
also, yeah, the only
how are
way
you
I
going to get a proper correlation when the weather is going to change the amount of ambient light? Not just the weather where you're at.
Well, that's not
but
just only that. Your latitude will make a difference too, depending on the time of year.
Yeah, of course the latitude.
The astronomical twilight can last a long time in the northern and southern hemisphere at the furthest ends.
Yeah, and not only that, but not just the weather where you're at, but if, say, you're measuring at sunset, the weather way west of you is going to make a difference.
Yeah, that's why I basically started using a standard deviation to see how far apart they were, because it was already a subjective measurement.
If you don't
how
control
well I could.
for the weather, then you're going to need an enormous amount of data to correlate, to average out all those weather variations.
Yeah, I got you, and that's why basically at some point, I would compare it to over time, and see how well it matches. And at some point, the standard deviations should line up about the same. But the issue is I was getting about 17 minutes sometimes, and that is not right.
Did you come up with
17 minutes in 24 hours is not much of a standard deviation.
No, not between the 24 hours, between the
not
setting.
even what he's
time.
saying? I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows what a standard deviation is.
Exactly. So it's not a big deal, but it is. Remember, when he says it, you think he's saying one thing, but he means something else. So
he has
I don't know
a
how to work
completely
that
different definition of all standard terms.
No, this is a bell curve, and when it shows you in the bell curve how far out each of the data points are, and you do a factor of a margin of error, and then you see how far the margin of error is once you've done your statistics on that problem.
And so you can tell us how to calculate a standard deviation, correct?
No, I'm not going to do that. That's a fool's errand. Yeah, because
so then
it's completely.
It was in a standard deviation or outside of a standard deviation if you didn't perform the calculation.
Hey, understand, I don't care if you know what a standard deviation is or how to calculate it. What I'm concerned with is understanding what meaning you're trying to convey when you use those terms.
I missed it. You got to say it again.
That's not happening.
It's not going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine.
What's going on, fellas?
Like it's somehow figuring out standard deviations hard. So it's always wanted to deflect from this shit. That's the best part.
Go ahead. You can calculate it now, right?
Trying to
I already
understand
did.
you is not a deflection, man. And Mr. Reality, we're talking about standard deviance.
All I need to know is
Join in,
whatever
join in,
experiment,
if you know.
whatever experiment you guys did. I explained mine. Now, let's see what you got.
So
We're talking about
the
standard
average of a number set.
Watch the
and-
star move past behind the tree on the right. And we started observing the star in between the two trees in the middle. And over a period of 30 minutes, the star moved to the right.
What the hell was
Wow.
that?
Anyway,
What was that?
You got a hot mic, man.
No, I think he's trying to explain an experiment.
Deliberate.
that was not an experiment.
It was a globe version, maybe.
That was a rambling of a crazy drunk who thinks he can predict earthquakes.
Dude, one, not drunk. Two, I can predict.
Well, you need to be.
Three, you're a flattard, so you have no idea about any of this.
I'm the best flattard.
You're the best fucking idiot to ever be alive. Congratulations.
Yes, I'm the best fucking idiot to ever be alive.
That's
I want to be the best
compliment, man.
idiot.
Congratulations, man.
Can I get that roll, please?
The best.
So, Cret, what are you trying to prove?
They can't prove shit, dude.
That's a damn good question.
Got something pretty interesting to tell y'all.
What's
When there's
that?
an opportunity.
Well, I mean, this kind of began with Jake asking Crit about the astronauts. About does he believe that
Hey,
the astronauts?
Mr. Reality, you see that Bitcoin's to 44K?
Yeah, I know what I'm
Jackass?
trying to prove here. I can
Yeah.
bring up multiple. I
Hmm.
can bring up multiple experiments I've done. They all get negated, and at the end of the day, I will not be presented with an experiment on your guys' side at all, at anything whatsoever. I won't even get a hypothesis.
What kind of experiment do you want?
Anything.
Okay, Slice Barkane's experiment reproducing Eratosthenes' measurements of the circumference of the Earth by repeated observations from different parts of the globe. I think over a dozen, right? And they just repeated the Eratosthenes calculations.
Yeah, I heard that clip of Slice Barkane presenting that to Nathan Oakley. It was pretty hilarious. I'd just say, 9 out of 10 would listen again.
I don't know what that
Are
means.
you going to do it?
Yeah, I'll show you. Here, I'll find it real quick.
I mean, we're familiar with it. Are you going to do it?
Does it mean anything to him?
Hold on.
I think it's going to be based on that slight
can listen to it in real time.
So what's the problem? What is so you would have a criticism of Slice Barkane's either his methodology or his results or his calculations. Which would that be?
Well, hold on. Let me find it for you. Okay?
I don't care about Nathan bullying somebody and muting them.
This was
I don't
actually
care about that.
No mute was done. This is the actual audio clip. It's 8 minutes long. This is Slice Barkane talking about his experiment.
Well, how about you just
stop following and get to the point?
Yeah, right here. There it is. Boom.
Oh, the clip is not the point.
This is the guy you're talking about, right? Slice Barkane.
Yeah, Slice Barkane had a number of people, and flat earthers were invited. I don't know if any did, maybe one did. So what is the problem that you have with that experiment?
Yeah, just listen to it. It's glorious.
No, I'm just asking
I'm
you.
familiar with the experiments. What's your problem?
Yeah, it goes on and on about first he has an experiment before an hypothesis. Then he has a hypothesis, but he's going to withhold it.
I don't care about
Then
this presentation in this particular video. I'm familiar with the procedure.
Check this out, Craig.
Check out the presentation. The
I'll
presentation
watch
is
that. I'm
glorious.
gonna take my time and watch that. Watch this though.
Yeah.
I did the same thing Slice Barkane did with the same number of people for some reason, and I use flat earthers in mine. Well, actually, flat earther gave me the most data than anybody else. All the data and conclusions, all that shit's in there.
Yeah, I just saw the one where the guy did it with 2 sticks and a bike, and he got the wrong answer.
But this is 23 people, and you don't have to listen to somebody else talk about it. You could all the info's in that paper.
So I think
Hey, by
they're
the
asking
way,
Kosher,
whoever
are you
mentioned-
is this an experiment? I think that's what the video is about. Is it an experiment?
Well, they're basically talking about taking the measurement and then using the sun, but not knowing what the sun is, how far away the sun is, or what anything about it.
Why do we have to know those things?
Yeah, because it's an experiment, right? Controlled experiment.
Why we're not measuring this? We're not measuring the sun.
Yeah, you're measuring using the light from the sun, right?
Yeah, you don't even have to assume anything about the sun to do this. You can.
You have to. Don't you have to assume that
Let me finish. You can make your conclusion based off analysis of the evidence without making any prior assumptions.
So if you look at, go ahead.
The only thing we have to know with regard to the sun is that the rays of light that come from the sun are very, very nearly parallel.
Except for during the lunar eclipse.
No,
or solar eclipse during a solar eclipse.
During a solar eclipse, that slight deviation from parallel becomes apparent.
So that'd be a debunk right there.
No, it's not a debunk.
Hey, by the way, real quick, I want to comment on what somebody said a second ago about Bitcoin being at 44,000. It'll jump up and down thousands of dollars within 5 minutes. But as you always know, when you're doing, technical analysis on the charts, you always look left. And if you look left, there is no resistance. There's only support. So it'll drop down. You have a bunch of people selling off. Then you look at the support, and you buy back in on the support, and it'll bounce back up. Anyway, back to flat Earth.
Bullshit. You were the one who said it would only go down.
No, I said there's no resistance. This is technical analysis. There's no resistance. Look left. Shrink the timeline.
You don't need your Bitcoin.
Listen, look.
Fails.
Do it with. Okay, tell.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Crit, the rays of light from the sun are nearly parallel. That only becomes apparent during a solar eclipse because the moon is also pretty far away, and therefore the penumbra and umbra become much more apparent than they would be for, say, a fence post on Earth. Are you there?
Is that an experiment or is that just another explanation?
That's an explanation of why we don't see very much of a deviation from parallel for objects here on Earth, like trees, columns, towers, fence posts, like that. Their shadows are parallel. And the reason we don't see that, they appear parallel, although they're very slightly off. The reason we see it when it's the moon is because the moon is 240,000 miles away, and so that deviation becomes scaled much larger. The scale is much larger in that case. So it's a matter of scale, and because of the distance of the moon, not right? Okay?
No, I'm not okay with that because I can look up and see the sun and the moon are about the same size also. So it's very easy to say, how can you tell size, shape, and distance when they
We're not
appear to
telling
be the
any
same
of those
size?
things just from looking at them.
Well, the angle of the or the size of the umbra and penumbra is going to be determined by how much the obstructing object, in this case the moon, subtends the angle the angle of the light coming from the sun, and that's going to vary a lot on distance. And so this moon is distant from the Earth, whereas, say, a line of fence posts are not. So if you get photographs of fence posts, the shadows cast are parallel. But the reason that the moon's shadow has umbra and penumbra is because it's 240,000 miles away. So it subtends the angle much more aggressively than a fence post does.
Yeah, the other thing too is like when you do this thing, you're basically getting yourself a circumference, and that is also a circle.
A circumference is a circle, yes.
Yeah, not a
circumference are you talking about?
And also, Crit, the moon is not always identically the same size as the sun. During an annular eclipse, when the moon is is I forget whether it's perihelion or aphelion, when it's a different distance. Its orbit around the Earth is not a perfect circle. So there are times during the orbit, if it comes in front of the sun, where it will be a different size.
Yeah, so when you do this thing with the sticks and the shadows and stuff, you're getting the circumference. You're not getting a radius.
You can calculate radius from circumference.
Yeah, but you are getting a circumference, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Circumference.
So what?
Yeah, then when you get the
which one you get
circumference,
first just depends on which equation you use.
yeah, then once you have this circumference, then you're going to get a radius, but that would be the radius to basically to whatever the center is, the North Pole, if you will. You're not be able to draw a radius downwards from that, unless you do this like some other way where you can overlap these circles to form a three-dimensional shape.
I don't know what circles you're talking about now, because it doesn't sound like any geometry that's represented in these experiments.
Yeah, you can describe a circle or a sphere as having a circumference or a radius, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but if you've only got one circumference, that would be a circle. You have to have many circumferences for
it's a sphere.
What?
It's a sphere circumference.
What?
Yeah. Where's Twit? Is Twit here?
What the fuck?
You're right that this gets you one circle, but that circle is a line of longitude.
Yeah, so what you're doing here, like say if you stand in the middle, like around something, like an ice rink, if you will,
and we can do this experiment on different lines of longitude.
Yeah,
and see that they all give a circle.
Back to
and what
yeah,
happens
but
when you combine circles from all lines of longitude?
Yeah, but a radius back to where the North Pole is.
No, that's not what it gives you.
No, the radius is from the center of the Earth.
Longitude, not latitude.
What? You guys need to make your explanation a lot simpler for him.
Probably.
Yo, what you need to do is no more explanations. I want to see experimentation. Okay, that's
definition.
it.
We don't experiment on definitions.
It's kind of done with this explanation crap because all it leads to is basically the flat earther doesn't understand.
Okay,
and I'm just it's tiring. It's really boring.
You can go read his paper that he made.
Grit.
It's basically right here, Newton's flaming sword, right?
There's no need to keep complaining about it. It's not just one circle when you do that test. The 23 people one, like when I did it, for instance, there was a circle created at every person's longitude. So every person's meridian, like my meridian, all 23 people had a specific meridian from their location to the equator. So there was technically 23 circles made in that circumstance. So it's not that you're creating one circle.
And you drew this out.
It's in that paper that I posted. You guys see that? But yeah, it's all you have to do is you have to imagine that there's my position, and then there's the position directly south of me at the equator, where the sun is directly above on that day, and you would use those 2 points to make a circle, and comparing all the circles, basically comparing everybody else's angles and the circle that they made. But technically, that angle would be creating a circle for all those different people.
Yeah, the same thing we talked about earlier with the ISS. Each one of these paths right here has a circumference to it.
Sure, but you were just refuting that by saying
but
that one circle.
You put the circle on the wrong axis. You put the circle. You're assuming these circles are on the ground. They're like
they're measured off the ground.
Horizontal. They're not.
They're measured horizontal. They're measured off sea level.
The experiment that we're talking about gives you the evidence to show that lines of longitude are circles that intersect at the North and South Pole. What does that give you? That gives you a sphere.
And you calculate the radius of that sphere.
This mean you guys? So if you got this, are you ready to talk about the globe now, or still talk about flat Earth?
You're not listening, are you?
No, I am. That's my follow-up question. I just one more question left. Just one more question left.
If
does this mean
evidence shows you that lines of longitude are circles that intersect at the North and South Pole, what do you get?
Yeah, and if what you say is true, does it mean is it done with the flat Earth and it's time to talk about the globe, or is it just flat Earth time?
The flat Earth
We've
is
been
done.
talking about the globe.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay, because let's see how long this lasts. I'll start a stopwatch and see how long it takes to go deflect right from the globe again.
As soon as somebody claims that it's not globe, or maybe claims that it's flat, one of the two, we have to talk about it. If you're not going to claim it anymore, and you're claiming it's a globe, we'll talk about that all day.
Sure, go ahead. Let me hear everything you got. They got a phone call. Don't stop on my account.
Wow. Crit is crushing the globe. Guys don't have any.
We just converted somebody in your face.
How is that? Some of what you're smoking, man.
Chemo, will you tell Crit to put some gloves on and like some safety glasses? Man, he's gonna get himself hurt. He's crushing us so bad.
Well, I'm saying because the beauty of
He
flat
probably
Earth
needs a safety helmet too.
The beauty of flat Earth is that we all have different angles and methods. None of them you can handle.
Do you have?
They cause you frustration at every corner. So,
do you have a criticism of Kosho's experiment that he posted?
Yeah, an experiment. If it's a scientific experiment, he needs an observed phenomenon. He's an experiment. He's a hypothesis. None of those things he was able to do. So basically, doing it based on the assumption, which is not scientific.
Okay, call it a measurement if you want. What do you have to say about its procedure?
Well, it's
or
going to be a
conclusions?
measurement. He's going to have to directly measure it and then show the direct measurement, not
did.
make any assumptions.
He did measure it.
Go
He did
look at the
measure it.
paper.
Where's that rule written?
Well, again, if you want to have knowledge and not based on the assumption, then you're going to have to do these things in this method and this order.
No, you don't.
I want knowledge of where is this fucking rule written. That's what knowledge I want.
Well, like I said, we've got scientists like Max Planck, physicist, Nobel Prize.
You're just making
Nobel Prize winner, and he tells us curves. If there's no experiment, it's all poetry. So it's just an illusion. You're singing to me. You're trying to woo me with your serenade.
So why did he say that the Earth is a globe?
You're trying to serenade.
I was ready for their
with your songs of. Exactly.
Chemo, I'm ready for their poetry though. Like I just want to see how long they can last.
So you had to go away for. So are you ready to resume then, Crit?
Well, I didn't need to resume. I can rewind the live stream.
Well, what is it that you want to continue? We presented you with the data by Kosho and by Slice Barkane, and so what is your response?
Well, Slice Barkane is out already.
Out. You mean out?
I just showed you the link to that. Do you think that was a valid hypothesis, what he presented on that video?
I don't care about his presentation. Look at the methods and the data.
Well, you cared about my presentation. So if I'm seeing a contradiction already.
I care about a presentation you made in the past.
Yeah, you do though. So
instead of bickering about Slice Barkane and what's his name's conversation.
Some guy named Kosho. That's who.
Kosho's got stuff written down, data and procedures written down right here. Let's focus on that one.
Come on, Kosho. That was funny.
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh,
some guy named Kosho. Yeah, some asshole somewhere.
Didn't say that.
No, I'm saying that he is an asshole. No, but he did. This guy Kosho, he did get flat earthers to participate. And like I said, some of the flat earthers gave him some of the most detailed evidence of their measurements and stuff. But you know how that goes.
And what was the conclusion of your little measurement or experiment or whatever you want to call it?
The long and the short is I made predictions, coming up with ideas for the flat Earth and ideas for the globe. and just seeing which, what the predictions, what the measurements would be based on the predictions, and the predictions. I allowed for 1 degree of error. So if I was within 1 degree of the prediction, I concluded it as a correct prediction. And for the globe model,
why did you assume 1% error?
I said 1 degree error.
Why did you assume that?
I didn't assume that. I said I allowed for that.
Why? That's my question. Why? Why did you choose 1%?
Because of measurement
1 degree.
because of user error and for refraction, and I could have allowed for 1/2 degree, and that would have been fine too. But I allowed for 1 degree because, like I said, there's user error. People might not do it at the exact time they were supposed to, or might not be measuring it perfectly, or whatever. So I allowed for 1 degree, and that's perfectly reasonable to allow for 1 degree because the 3 flat Earth predictions I made, some of the predictions were 10 degrees out, 10 degrees or more out. Okay, every one of the globe predictions were all within 1 degree of the predictions. So
I still don't understand why you just randomly picked 1 degree.
Your mute button working? Anyhow, yeah. So they all worked. I mean, they all matched the globe predictions.
Okay. Okay. So thank you. Welcome to Globe Earth, everybody.
Hashtag the 1 degree.
You fucking 1 degree is a reasonable allowance.
Do you agree?
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm asking why you just randomly picked that.
Yeah, I agree. It lasted 2 minutes and 30 seconds till it came back to me. That's all I need to know right there.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I wouldn't have come back to you.
Just asking you. I'm just asking you if you concur with Kosho and the results of his little experiment. Nothing? I'm going to take that as a concession then.
I said 2 minutes and 34 seconds.
What about that?
Why are you counting though?
Yeah, I told you that's what I was going to do. I was going to see how long.
No, what you said was going to see how long until we talk about the flat Earth again.
Yeah, or
what does that have to do with anything?
I just trying to how long it would last to see just talking about just the globe.
What does that have to
all
do
this
with
was
anything?
true. I just had one more question. That's it, just one more thing.
Okay, what's your last question?
Yeah, it was see how long this conversation about the globe would last, and it lasted 2 minutes and 34 seconds.
Who cares?
Not a question.
This is a little weird. This is weird stuff now.
Yeah, I just you want to see how I tie it in? Because it really had your experiment had nothing to do with the globe. Had to do with crit.
No, it didn't.
It actually had nothing to do with. I didn't think I knew you at this time.
Kosho's experiment had nothing to do with you, Crit.
Well, why'd you invoke me then?
I asked you what you thought about it.
Yeah, and I was to see how long it took. You could just told me what you thought about it.
Did you not want to be part of the conversation?
No, I just wanted to listen to see how long the globe would be the topic.
Okay, mute him, and then he can listen permanently.
Fucking A, what the hell?
But you're being a little bit strange with all that. But like, why don't we just participate in a regular conversation? We're doing before.
Yeah, that's great. Factor me out.
So what do you think of the experiment, Crit?
What do you think of it?
I think it proves the Earth is a globe.
Got him.
He's not participating. He's just listening. Remember?
Yeah, I just needed Gotham. That was
now he's talking again for some reason. What the hell?
Because it was the Gotham. That's all I needed right there.
That triggered it.
I barely had a chance to start the timer on that one.
What are you talking about? What are you going? I don't even understand what he's doing.
This is what I'm doing right here.
You have to understand, we're in the middle of a conversation with you, so that's why we're going to keep responding to you. So if you tell us how long it takes for us to respond to you or something like that, or
no, just don't worry about me. Just
we're not actively avoiding you, if that's what you think.
No, this idea like right here, it's like, oh, hey, what do you think about it, Brenda? Brenda's like, I think it proves the globe. I'm like, okay, now let's talk about the globe. How long did that last for? And it was Gotham. I barely got a chance to start the timer, and it was Gotham.
So not only did you just all this.
Oh, did you start the timer all over again, but not tell anybody you were going to just start the timer and start this whole thing again?
Yeah, I could pick up how many standard deviations there are in between which people and which people talk about which topics.
You don't know what a standard of deviation is.
Great.
What's the best method for removing sand from one's vagina?
I think a leaf blower. But yeah, we don't have to get into the like personal, because I know that you don't like it when it's personal about you, but I feel like in this instance you're kind of making it about you when we're just talking to you. You know what I mean? So it's like we're not trying to avoid talking about anything about the globe or the flat earth or anything. We're trying to just have a conversation. So I mean, it just we're doing that timer thing. It's just kind of getting strange. So it's making the conversation
what's strange for me is like you've got proof, right? You've got proof of the globe, and you're asking me about it.
Yes. What's strange is that Kosho usually isn't
part of the conversation.
Kosho is really hard to get creeped out. He usually is the one doing the creeping, but for some reason he's creeped out by Crit. Weird.
Well, this is it's difficult to understand what is going on. I'm having a difficult time understanding. I think Crit is just desperate and trying to throw
There it is again. Another claim about Crit. I love it. The more
let's avoid
now Crit's desperate as another positive claim.
Are you wanting to be? You're wanting to be?
No, hold on. I'll explain it. This is what I need. This is what I need right here. Okay. So now you've got solid proof of the globe. I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
So let's hear about this globe. I'm all ears. Then you add a claim. I don't know what standard deviation is. Then I'm desperate. I have to now. I want to hear those claims. Prove those too. Otherwise, I can say I'm going to throw it all up. It's all in the bin.
Right, there's a lot of people in this room, man, and you know, if you don't want to talk about this stuff, that's fine. But we're just talking about it. We don't have to talk about what you don't know and what you don't have to talk about.
I would like that.
It's like literally talking to a 2-year-old.
But I think Brendan was just asking you because I'm curious myself, and actually I've been curious about this since I've done this test. Because to be honest with you, nobody gives a response because I don't think that there is a proper response other than changing your paradigm.
Here's my response. Ready? I'm ready to change my paradigm. Let's see how long this paradigm lasts before it turns back into the Crit show. And then the longer it lasts, as long as this globe paradigm lasts, the more solid this proof will be for me. If any more claims about Crit, flat earth people, or anything else, I can just count this as it wasn't really a proof at all. It was just kind of like
Oh, I see. I get it. I get it. You think
it's not interesting for anybody, Crit?
Is that what this is? Curve, do you agree with me that he thinks that if we talk about
I agree that we should not even think about them. I agree.
Yeah.
We shouldn't even.
Yeah, we should just
Kosho, can you tell me about your experiment a little bit? Just give me a brief summary of like what it was you're measuring.
I gave the rundown because I didn't want to. But yeah, it's very simply. It's on the same vein of what Aristotle did, except for that on the equinox instead of the solstice. I did it on that day because the sun's directly over the equator, and so knowing that the sun is directly over the equator that entire day, all you have to do is you can have any number of people. I had 23 people. You can learn the exact distance from your location to the equator. You can do this by either just looking it up, or you can use the latitude lines and multiplying that by 69 degrees or 69 miles. Either way, and so where was I? Oh yeah, right. So with that, with the distance to the equator and knowing the sun is directly above the equator, you can easily make predictions for what the elevation of the sun should be on a flat plane. If this were a flat plane and that was happening. So I did that. I made all the predictions for all the locations. I made 3 different sets of them based on different sun heights and all that kind of stuff. And then I made one prediction for the globe, which all you needed to do that was know that it's a globe and that the angles change linearly as they get away from the equator. So as you move from the equator, 10 degrees is going to be 690 miles. Another 10 degrees is another 690 miles. That's not something you can do on a flat plane because they get wider and wider. So that's all I did was make those predictions.
Were these measurements taken universally coordinated at the same moment or at individuals' local solar noon?
Yeah, that's a part I left out. Right. So another good thing about using the solstice, knowing that it's directly above the equator on a day, is that you know that when it's directly south of you, when it's directly south, the most south it is, or when your shadow is pointed the most north, that's your local solar noon. And so you know that doing that, you're making a straight line measurement. That's why earlier I said you're making 23 different meridians, basically, because you're measuring a angle directly south or directly north, depending on which direction you're looking. But yeah, so in that sense, they're not doing it in the exact same time as each other, because that would be the wrong way of doing it. They're doing it to where it's the exact same.
Gotcha. So if I were to find that I lived at 30 degrees north latitude, I could predict with a high degree of certainty that at solar noon, the measured angle to the sun, regardless of whether you use shadows and sticks, sextant with a solar filter, or any other measuring device that to accurately measure that altitude, I can safely predict that it's going to be about 60 degrees altitude. Is that correct?
Question: how did people make measurements in this test?
This is not as important as what I was in the middle of already asking. After I get an answer to my important question, then we can deal with BD's drivel. Thank you.
Okay. No, yeah, that's exactly right. I called it the complement angle. So there's an elevation angle, there's a 90-degree angle, and then there's a complement angle, which is the complement from 90 degrees of whatever latitude you are at. So if you're at 30 degrees, the elevation angle should be 60 degrees. Oh no. So the complement angle would be your latitude. I mean, so yeah, if your latitude is 30 degrees, then you expect it to be 60 degrees elevation, and you could transform this from any part of Earth. So if it was
Your
89
latitude
degrees,
plus the altitude of the sun are going to add up to 90.
that's right.
So we're not dealing with supplemental angles here at all.
Right.
Not that needed to be said. I don't know why I even brought it up.
No, it does. It's all in the paper that's there, but it's all kind of it's all put together, and I'm not the best person at describing things, but it definitely is. It's easy to make predictions for each model because all you have to do is understand the basic maths. And
well, how was I able to make that prediction that at 30 degrees latitude that altitude of the sun would be 60 degrees?
Using that effect that I said, that on a sphere, the angle changes linearly instead of at a wider and wider angle outward. So it's really easy.
You're not getting credit for this. That's not why I was able to do it. I could do it because I know the model and how it works, and I'm able to make that prediction accurately because I'm familiar with that part of it and how to do that. Now, one thing I do know is that if I were trying to predict this with a flat Earth model, my prediction would be, how the fuck can I figure this out?
I brought that up before. If you're using one location, you can then figure out what the height of the sun would have to be. And then you can use that to make predictions for the other locations, which is what I did. But yeah, you would have to know the distance to the equator from your position. If you were at 30 degrees, like you said, you do 30 times 69. That would give you the miles distance between you and the equator, the bottom part of the triangle. And then you would have 90-degree angle from the equator to the sun. And then you would have the elevation angle that you are measuring from the sun. And you can use all that to determine what the height of the sun would be. And then you would.
Oh, so if you did that and found the height of the sun there, then that height would remain consistent from other latitudes, right?
It should, yeah.
But it
I'm sorry, Curve, didn't you ask him how he did the experiment? I thought we were getting back to your question.
Look, we're going to get to your stupid question in a minute. We're still trying to.
It was your question originally.
What was your question?
How did they do the measurements?
That was a good point, though, and that's a good question. But that was a good point about the different heights of the sun.
You guys had a cute little math nerd out.
No, but that's why I did. That's why I had 3 different predictions for the flat Earth. Is because I could have had 23 different predictions for the flat Earth, but that would have been a waste of time. Because each position that I'm making a prediction from would have a different height for the sun. Unfortunately,
generally, when people want to do like an experiment, explain it to people. They explain what they're going to do before they say how they're going to make the calculations and test each model.
I did that.
How are you measuring the sun? You haven't explained that yet.
Okay, well, what we did was we were all going to use the same size stick, but I didn't require that because not everybody has a meter stick. So all you have to do is you had to tell me beforehand what the size of the stick you were using, and you had to.
That's so funny.
What?
That's what she said.
Yeah.
That is what she said. And I gave everybody careful instructions to make sure that it was standing straight up, and that that they could see the shadow clearly, and that the shadow was pointed as far as close to north as possible. And I also gave everybody their local solar noon for that day, just to make sure they were doing it at the right time.
Okay, so people had to put a stick in the ground and measure the height of the stick above the ground. What were they measuring?
And the shadow it produced. The height of the stick and the shadow it produced. They gave me those numbers.
And
I
what
did.
units?
Say again?
What units?
It didn't. It was different for different people. In inches, centimeters, didn't matter. And
You had to measure the length of the shadow at their solar noon.
That's right. The length of the shadow, length of the stick, and I did the math for the angle.
And did they have to tell you where they were on the Earth, or?
Yes, they had to give me their longitude and latitude position. Within like a percentage, I think like a decimal of a degree or something. 2 decimal places, I think. And that's all. Yeah, that's all needed. That's all that's needed. But I have the data sheets in there, and that.
Were there any measurements that were erroneous in your sample size?
Yeah, like I said, I was gonna allow. What do you mean erroneous? You mean like they were?
I mean, like someone said that, oh, my latitude is 30 degrees, but then they measured the sun at like 70 degrees.
Yeah, the furthest one was my friend in St. Petersburg, but it was less. It was still less than 1 degree. And I think that the furthest you got away from the equator, the more of a chance you had of getting error. That's why I allowed for the 1 degree error. But yeah, nobody was outside of that 1 degree.
I think it's amazing that you got flat earthers to do this.
Yeah, I got a couple of them to do it. And Chepa was the one who, like I said, gave more. He gave more evidence of his measurements than anybody else. He took pictures of him, and he and a few other people were doing it a couple of days before.
I think that's great.
But he argued against it more than anybody else did.
Did people have to give you the pictures of their measurements, or they just gave you numbers?
I asked for them, and I was going to include them, but only some people did, and it didn't really. I think I included some of them in the paper, but it wasn't really necessary.
Oh, you have a paper?
Yeah, dude. Yes, I do. Yeah, and also
let's see it.
I posted like 18 times, man.
18 times? No way. I'm sorry, it's really hard to find your link because there's like a spam war going on in the text chat if you haven't noticed.
Well, Gravity was Paul. He was helping me rewrite this in like a formatted way. But what he did was he kind of took what I had, and I needed to add some stuff into what he had changed it to, and I never did that. So I keep posting the original copy that he had. So
I've had to quit looking at the text chat. I lost my libido looking at it.
Are you lost? What about your dinner?
Hey, I'm wondering about another measurement method, Kosho. Like if you had like a little bit of solar film, or even some dark sunglasses, could work on a cell phone camera to cover the lens, and a theodolite app. You could pretty accurately measure the elevation of the sun using that too, couldn't you?
it's not a bad idea. I seen a video that showed that you can use like an old CD, or you can use even a potato chips wrapper, like the Lay's potato chips with the black wrapper. You can actually use that as a solar filter if it's not scratched up.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm we were
The first page is blank for some reason.
okay. Skip that one, VD.
He's not the best
This
at
guy's trouble.
writing academic papers. Don't
I
hold
know.
it against him.
This was originally a sloppy copy, but it's also it's got all the info in it in the right order. It's good to go.
I'm going to question the order.
You're a pain in the ass.
No, that's the standard way that these things are supposed to be written. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
I think predictions section should be before the actual test.
Yeah.
It's just my 2 cents.
it was before the actual test, you dipshit.
I think the inclusivity should be at the end in the discussion, but it's okay.
Oh, wait, maybe you're right. Like you're saying, like explaining what the test would be.
Yes, the overall format of laying out each section.
Well, no, that doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense that if you're gonna say what you're gonna be doing, and then you're gonna say what your predictions are based on what you just said you're gonna be doing.
I mean, I guess, but it
Whatever.
just flows a bit differently than I'm used
I mean,
to.
all you got to do is like rework this into the appropriate sections, move all these graphics to the end.
To the end. Have you ever read a magazine before?
Have you ever published anything before?
You ever read those books where like you read the book and in the middle of the book they have a bunch of pictures and like, oh cool, the pictures of all the things that are happening.
Are you trying to make a kid's pop-up book, or are you trying to write a research paper here?
I'm just saying, like when you're looking at something, you're reading it, you probably want to look at what you're reading. I don't see why you put it at the end.
VD was, in my opinion, over exaggerating all the figures, but I mean, even this is already another level above some stuff I've seen QE write up. So.
Well, thank you, man.
If you want to blow flat Earth research papers out of the water, you should learn LaTeX. But
oh yeah. Somebody was telling me about that.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I forget who was somebody was telling me about that. But regardless,
Kosher, this is the kind of paper that can get you into grad school, man.
Okay.
What's LaTeX?
Why don't you fucking just go jump off a cliff, man?
What? Am I wrong, Chronic?
Why don't you go call Chris Brown, man? Call Chris Brown and.
LaTeX is LaTeX a scripting language to write like professional looking papers.
Because I go down to the store and I need paint, I usually get LaTeX.
Yep, good one.
I was actually probably I should have made a video with this a long time ago, and everyone keeps bringing up Slice Cams because he has a video. Everyone's seen that video a lot of times, and it's a coincidence that I did 23 people. I didn't mean to do the same number of people he did.
Dude, Slice Barcane does amazing work on his videos, except for the fact that he absolutely poisons them with his terrible music.
He has music in his videos?
Like the worst music ever. It's music that he made that he seems to really like, and it's absolutely horrendous music.
Well, I guess I'm not missing anything since I don't watch the videos.
Well, who says his music is bad, Jake? Just because it doesn't suit your fancy? Yeah.
Kosher, you could totally make a video about your research.
Yeah, probably. I was supposed to make videos, but there's another video I was supposed to make, and then I lose the interest in doing it. So.
I'll translate your entire research paper into professional-looking LaTeX for a fee.
For FE, did you hear that, guys? You hear that? Chronic's gonna do all this just for FE. Great, man.
You don't want your name on it, Chronic?
For a fee.
He's doing it straight for FE, man. He's doing it for FE.
Shut up.
You don't want your name on his paper, Chronic?
No, I don't.
You don't want to lend him credibility?
You're such a fuck, man.
No, man.
First of all, I wasn't trying to. Honestly, remember originally when I was doing this for? I was doing this for that one dude who was offering $10,000. Remember that?
Who was that guy?
Yeah, it was Eric DeBay, and he was Eric DeBay's name.
Yeah.
And they were offering $10,000 for someone who can substantially prove, or what he claimed prove, that it's a sphere.
Didn't someone try to claim that $10,000 last week? I saw a video on my YouTube stream of someone trying to claim Eric Dubé's $10,000.
The one, that one British Glober. What's his name? I forget.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Science Dan.
Yeah, Simon Dan.
Simon Dan.
He just made a video about it for some reason.
I
It
bet you
popped
he,
up
I
on
bet
my
you,
recommended list.
I bet you he stares judgingly at the screen for half the video.
Good
Simon Dan or Eric Dubé?
No, that's all he does, man. I say that and then I watched it with somebody. He did it like the first thing he did. It's like, it's cool. He says important stuff and funny stuff or smart stuff, but then like somebody will say something, and then we'll cut to Simon Dan just looking at the screen in fucking shock or in disappointment.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen once in every episode, I'll give you your fee.
You didn't even wait to hear what my fee is.
What is it, man?
Uh,
Want to get some? You want some flat Earth dome, huh? We can set that up.
Definitely not.
That must not feel pretty good. Sounds like some lame ass head.
I mean, we keep it classy in here, man. I said FE dome because it's like a double entendre with the FE dome.
I'll do it. $5 a page.
Okay, wow.
It's pretty cheap, huh?
No, absolutely, man. I mean, I don't know why I haven't paid you that money already. Wow, okay.
Here, you guys fast forward to 1 minute and tell me what you think of the music.
I might regret this, Jake.
Jake, too lazy to give us a time-stamped video.
Do I have to unmute it?
I said 1 minute.
Hey, man, I wrote that song.
Oh man, that's like human music, except not as good.
Jake. I bet you he made that music or knows somebody who made it or something.
Hey, Jake. Fuck you.
I'm pretty sure he's the one that makes his own music. That's why he puts it on there.
Yeah, well then you can't. Although I would advise him against it, but you know how it is. Like when you make something like that, like you're gonna have a different opinion about it than other people.
It's his way of getting an audience for his music by force. It's like audience by gunpoint. You know what I mean?
If you want,
you want to watch this Flat Earth video, you better listen to my music.
All right, hang on a sec. You said you're pretty sure he's the one who made his own music?
I was under the
Is that
impression
what you
that
said?
I was under the impression that he made his own music for his videos.
All right, because Sean Huppard definitely did. Sean Huppard played MIDI and did MIDI Welcome to the Jungle and stuff, and he played music. I don't know about Sly. He might have too. I don't know, but when you said you thought he was the one, that just reminded me. I know Sean did.
I thought I remember hearing him say he made his own music. I know that Sean Hufford had his own crappy MIDIs too, that he would do videos on. But if you notice, there's no. If he borrowed the music from somebody, you would think he would acknowledge it in the video, right? Like in the comments or in the video description. Usually, people will put a credit there for any free source music, right?
I don't know. I never made a video. I read that shit either.
Anyway, it's hard to believe that somebody would pick something that bad by, let's find some free music online. I mean, there's some pretty amazing tracks that are free and available. I don't think that I have a hard time believing of scouring all the free music that you would pick that particular song. Seems kind of difficult for me to understand, but
Yeah, I'm thinking I can slightly vaguely recall him
song is that?
saying that he did do his own music. It's been years since I heard it.
You're not talking about my Friday night pool party, are you?
Yes, we are.
Hot mic.
Dudes there, man.
What's on the Friday night pool party?
It's all hot dogs.
The hot dog down the hallway like you fell out of your mama?
Yeah, a lot of hot dogs, not a lot of hallways though. Spurs Chemo or
break.
Mr. Chemo.
The problem is Pseudomonas when you don't use enough bleach and chloride. Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
You put
Enough shop talk.
Is there Mr. Spurs Chemo? I have a question for you.
Someone asking a question.
I'll take that as a concession from Chemo. Just crit left.
I've been sending.
You're still there. You're still there. Never mind, man. Never mind.
I've been
Never mind.
DMing you my data points. I'm the work on the standard deviation now and debunked all of it.
You changed your picture, so.
Hey, Crit, how long did we go without talking about you? You were timing it, right?
It must have been a record. Definitely a record.
I know.
Right there.
Hey, who here can explain the 3.3 that happened in southern Idaho?
You can.
Tectonic plates shifting.
Good answer, pal.
I think.
He just said good one to you, Chronic.
It's good one, yeah.
Good one, good answer. Hey.
Yeah, correct. I was gonna ask Chemo about the.
It's ironic.
I was gonna do a pizza.
I was gonna ask Chemo about the flat that stuff we just talked about with that test. I don't know what questions to ask him, and so that's why I was having a hard time thinking about which questions to ask him. I was wondering if you could help me come up with questions to ask Chemo about my test.
About your chest?
That's right.
Who are you asking?
Why is it so hairless?
It's not hairless. Crit, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking you, man. What do you think? What do you think about the test, man? I'm just gonna ask you straight up. I'm not gonna beat around the bush.
Yeah, you saw the data points I sent you, right? In your DMs.
Is it regarding the test?
Yeah.
Yes, but whose test?
I mean, pictures
If you
of
got data, put it in the chat for the rest
guys
of
with
us.
swords.
No, all the way at the bottom.
Is it
That's
sword?
the
What?
Dungeons and Dragons game we were talking about.
What the hell are they talking about?
Oh, you sent me a bunch of time, like a bunch of. I guess you have the stopwatch, and you just sent me a bunch of different times.
Yeah, that's each time flat Earth or flat Earth model or flat Earthers were invoked, not including the guys that were in your experiment though. I didn't include
I
that.
appreciate that, man.
So yeah, once I'll take all this data, work out the standard deviation of this data set, and then boom,
And
that's
then
it.
negate it.
You
Yeah,
negate it just like that. Yeah.
that's cool, man. I appreciate that. Just yeah, send it to me like every day or something.
The
like
standard deviation of what, though?
No, it's that's fine. This
I
is
don't know what you're
deviation
standard
of it.
deviating.
He's sending me fucking timestamps for God's sake, man. There's nothing to ask about that. But
It's a document. How do you send timestamps on a document?
he just said he has pictures of a stopwatch and they have different times on it, and he sent that to me. But that's cool, man. I appreciate that. But I'm asking about the test, though. Like, what do you actually think about it?
Yeah, that's what I think about it right there. Because as soon as another claim on the test was that I don't know what standard deviation is,
No,
I'll just talk about that one part of it.
Nobody's worried about that.
Oh.
Man. No one's worried about that.
I am.
I know. Then you're
But
the only. Then you're
The
perpetuating.
question is what you're applying standard deviation to, because it seems like you might not understand.
I know Jake, that he's complaining of he's using that to fuel his random weird thing he's doing right now, man.
He knows what it is. It's not. We
No, he
don't.
doesn't.
It's
He
might know.
In Microsoft Excel, in a cell, you type equal stdev parentheses and then all the numbers you want to find. The
Right. I'm just gonna hand jam it.
That's how you.
Step by
That's
step.
what it is, guys. Come on.
Regardless of that,
That
or
doesn't give
standard
you any
deviation.
statistical analysis.
That's how you
Chronic.
derive
You
standard
bastard.
deviation in Microsoft Excel. You type equals st. Okay.
You bastard.
You know, standard deviation aside, Crit. You know, trying to keep talking.
But does he really know what it means, though?
I don't know, man. But I don't.
And
know
it's relation to the mean.
Is he trying to get his W experiment to rise from the train wreck that it is?
Grave.
The Phoenix experiment.
Get proper convo going. I don't want to talk about things that he. There's no point in making that claim about it because he's just going to use that to not talk. Send pictures of timers or something. Those are weird pictures that you sent me, Crit. I'm not sure why you took them or why you sent them. But if we can move away from the standard deviation thing, I'm asking about the test. Like, what do you think of the test? Like, do you think that there's something I did wrong? Do you think that it's a globe now and you don't know how to react? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many different ways I can keep explaining the same thing.
How about once?
What is this in relation to, though?
That's what I'm saying. It's not. That's the whole point. That's why I'm saying don't chase that because it's not in relationship to anything.
Kosher, to be clear, you're asking about your test, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Asking for it to comment on your test.
Yeah, you're asking him for an opinion he doesn't have, and you keep asking him over and over again.
It's just true. Sometimes you have to accept that you're not going to get what you want.
Crit's still mourning the death of his test.
How many standard deviants did your test, Kosher?
Well, all of the data was within the 1 degree. So
Yeah, I don't see any error bars in your tables.
I described the error. So
Yeah, he doesn't know how to do statistics, so he needs a little help.
I described what the error I was allowing for. It's perfectly sufficient for the test I did.
Error bar wouldn't be a bad name for a pub.
One that stays open after hours. Yeah.
There's a ton of pubs with that name already curved, but
You sure?
Parade.
Prove it. Send
Alright.
me pics, timestamps.
Alright.
We already saw a black swan today. Come on. But you get to be a little more rigorous with your math, Kosho. And you have to defend why you chose 1 degree.
It's the loneliest number.
Who knew VD would be the referee of this paper?
Being a bully.
You know statistics, Chronic. They're important to science.
There's actually no bars called error bar. So.
Arrow bar?
I just found 3 in California alone.
Yeah, there's one in LA. Terrible.
There's a bow and arrow pub in Toronto.
Veach has like a 30%
Also-
share in error bar. Come on, man.
I